It's been a really weird season for a lot of basketball teams, but I think that it's especially been a weird season for Dallas Maverick fans. While Jason Kidd was a great point guard on the court, off the court he had more than his fair share of issues, and despite having his fair share of issues off the court, I haven't really seen anything that would make me think that Jason Kidd would be the best basketball coach for one of the best players in the NBA, and Luka Doncic. You know what, now that I think of it, I've actually seen something, and that something is that Jason Kidd would literally do anything to win. Kidd is definitely in the Mike Tomlin tier of seizing the moment. There was a time where he quote-unquote accidentally spilled a drink to get what would serve as sort of an extra timeout. Guys, I'll never be mad at anybody trying to go the extra mile to get their team a victory, but come on, man. With Rick Carlisle and the Mavs going their separate ways, I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't know what was next for the Mavs, but I could tell you what I didn't expect. And what I didn't expect at the time was Jason Kidd. But hey, I guess you could say the writing was on the wall. Because I mean, let's be real. Jason Kidd and Mark Cuban, it's no secret that these guys go back. When the Mavericks hired Kidd, one of my first thoughts were, how would Luka Doncic and Jason Kidd coexist? Jason Kidd has always struck me as a no-nonsense type of head coach. And then Luka Doncic, as great of a player as he is somebody that has always struck me as someone who can be a bit of a wild card at times. What do I mean by that? Well, sometimes you get the unstoppable, locked in, and motivated Luka Doncic. But then, sometimes you get the Luka Doncic that is lagging behind plays and complaining about calls. To quote Kidd, if he were Luka, he would lean on playing 5-on-5 a bit more. You're not going to get any calls. Officials, they tend to not stop the game to change calls. You have to understand that there's a point in time in games, dead balls, to be able to talk to the officials. While the game is going on, transition defense is one of the things we've talked about that we have to get better at. If we're lobbying for calls during live play, it puts us in harm's way. Just something that has to be a little bit more important. I think we're going to get better at understanding as a team when to talk to officials, not just Luka. In my opinion, the Dallas Mavericks can be a really frustrating team because outside of Luka Doncic, they can be incredibly inconsistent. Whether it's injuries, inconsistent rotations, or talent just not stepping up. At times they leave a lot to be desired. But while we're on the topic of talent not stepping up, let's talk about the talent that has been stepping up for the Dallas Mavericks. Everybody was so quick to criticize Kristaps Porzingis that it felt like everybody forgot about exactly how good Kristaps Porzingis really was. While Rick Carlisle did good things for the Mavs offense and great things for Luka Doncic, he did the opposite for Kristaps. He turned Kristaps into much more of a spot-up shooter and basically said that post-ups were basically a wasted play for Kristaps Porzingis. Kristaps Porzingis' questionable role led to him forcing things and not exactly playing the brand of basketball that made Kristaps Porzingis the unicorn that everybody had grown to love. You guys could say that the switch to Kidd has helped Kristaps out a ton. This season, Kristaps' post-up field goal percentage is the highest it's ever been at 57.6%. This puts Kristaps 5th among players with 50+ post-ups this season. If you just looked at Kristaps' numbers, I feel like you would not be getting the full story. Because while his field goal percentage is down 2% from last season and he's averaging 0.6 less points than last season, if you were to ask me, I'd say that you'd see a much better player, a much more complete player than the Kristaps that we saw last season. The thing that's really crazy to me is that even though I think Kristaps Porzingis is better this season than last season, his three-point percentage is undoubtedly down. Last season, Kristaps Porzingis shot threes at 37.6%. This season, he's down to 29.7%. Guys, all I'm going to say is that if Kristaps' shot comes around, then watch out. As a matter of fact, let me show Kristaps some love for dominating the Charlotte Hornets the other night. Defensively, my guy was a monster. Just ask Miles Bridges. The Dallas Mavericks are in a really interesting spot because while they've been hit with injuries, they've also been hit with concerns about this team's ceiling. People have been questioning how good the Mavericks can be without making a major move. And look, I won't say that those questions are valid because I actually think that this Mavericks team can be really good, especially if Brunson continues to ascend. But what I will say is that the possibilities of the Mavericks making a major move are interesting nonetheless. Reportedly, and I can't stress this enough, reportedly, the Dallas Mavericks were one of the teams that reached out to the Nets about a possible Kyrie Irving trade. And in those trade talks, sources say Kristaps Porzingis was brought up. It's unknown if talks between the Brooklyn Nets and the Dallas Mavericks advanced past a preliminary stage. Now hold on, pause, time out. Before we even get into the logistics, before we even put logic into this incredibly complex equation, let's just imagine Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic on the basketball floor. The offense that these two would be able to produce would be off of the charts. These guys would be unstoppable together. How do you stop Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic? You simply don't. This pairing would absolutely be must-see basketball. Forget the wins, forget the losses. Think about the buckets. At the end of the day, isn't that what it's all about? That's a joke, guys. We all know it's clearly about championships. Do you guys think that the Dallas Mavericks would become a better team if they traded Kristaps Porzingis for Kyrie Irving? With Kyrie, we know that there's a lot that comes with Kyrie. As talented as he is, he has his fair share of problems. As much hate as Kristaps Porzingis gets for his injuries, at the same time, Kyrie Irving wouldn't exactly be a massive upgrade in that department. Beyond the injuries, you would have to worry about if Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic would be able to coexist. Unfortunately, with Kyrie Irving, it always feels like wherever he goes, the media and the slander are not far behind. On top of everything that I just said, Kyrie Irving would still be missing a good bit of games, which regardless of any trade, Kyrie missing games as is still really bad for the Brooklyn Nets, who have sorely needed Kyrie Irving. Now, the good news is that sources close to the Brooklyn Nets have renewed optimism that Kyrie Irving could play again this season, but unfortunately, it's unclear if that would be through letting Kyrie play road games or by fulfilling New York City's mandate. Now, while that report provided optimism, Steve Nash had this to say about those reports. I have connected with him, but not with any intel or insight that things are changing. I know that he'd love to be playing, but I think the boundaries are still the same as they were before recent reports. While Kyrie being out has sucked for the Brooklyn Nets, if you're a fan of watching Kevin Durant have to go hard every night, then you have no choice but to be excited because this guy literally just dropped 51 points in order to beat the Detroit Pistons by 12. Look, I know there was no James Harden, but I need the Brooklyn Nets to be blowing teams like this out. While we're here though, major shout out to Cade Cunningham, guys. He's legit. And to be fair, this Pistons team has shown a lot of fight when you consider what their record is. Now here's the thing with those Kristaps Porzingis and those Kyrie Irving reports. These reports are kind of boiling down to believe who you will believe, because according to Mark Stein, he said that he spoke with Mavericks owner Mark Cuban, who said that the Mavericks, contrary to reports, have had no trade discussions with the Nets about Kyrie Irving. On top of that, according to a recent report from Shams, several teams have placed calls about Kyrie Irving, but Brooklyn has not engaged. If the Nets really were to try to trade Kyrie Irving, I wonder what his trade value would be. What do you guys think that a fair trade for Kyrie Irving would be? On top of that, do you guys feel like the Dallas Mavericks should try to make a blockbuster move? Clicking the video on the screen right now is a great way to support my channel. I'm GetLikeCoop, bringing you guys the scoop until our next upload.